Hans-Ulrich Rudel is considered one of the most well-known pilots of World War II. In less than 4 years, he flew 2,530 combat missions, more than any other pilot in the war, mostly in Junkers 87 dive bombers. Rudel destroyed 519 Soviet tanks, along with more than 1,000 locomotives, vehicles, and other transport. He sank the Soviet battleship Marat and additional vessels including a cruiser, a destroyer, and 70 landing craft. He also destroyed bridges and bunkers and shot down 7 Soviet fighter planes and 2 Il-2 ground attack aircraft. He himself was shot down roughly 30 times by anti-aircraft fire and wounded 5 times, yet kept flying, even after his right leg was amputated below the knee. By war's end, he was the only soldier in German military history to receive the Knight's Cross with golden oak leaves, swords, and diamonds, the highest decoration the Third Reich could bestow, created essentially just for him. Rudel was born in 1916 in Konradswaldau, a town in the Silesian region that is now part of Poland. His father was a Lutheran country pastor. He was an unremarkable student, but as a teenager, he fell under the influence of National Socialist ideology that was sweeping German youth at the time. He joined the Hitler Youth, did his mandatory labor service, stayed physically active, and set his sights on a career in aviation. Despite his weak academic record, he passed the entrance exam for the Luftwaffe officer school in the summer of 1936. By 1937, he had completed flight training near Berlin and was transferred to Austria, near Graz, where Junkers 87 Stuka units were based. By his own account, flying didn't come naturally to him at first. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, Rudel served as a co-pilot on a reconnaissance aircraft, essentially a photographer, not a fighter. He sat out the Battle of Britain entirely, continuing his training at an airfield on the island of Crete. His career really took off on the Eastern Front. One of his first major actions was a strike on the Soviet battleship Marat in the harbor of Leningrad in 1941, for which he received the Knight's Cross, one of Germany's highest military honors. He went on to fight in southern Russia over the Black Sea and Caucasus, at Stalingrad, and during Operation Citadel. As Soviet forces pushed westward, he continued flying in the southern sector of the front and in the Balkans. Historians have noted that some of Rudel's claimed kill numbers should be taken with a grain of salt, since they rely heavily on his own accounts. The Wehrmacht deliberately promoted him as a propaganda figure. That said, it is well documented that he specialized in attacking armored vehicles using a heavily modified Stuka nicknamed the Kanonenvogel, which he helped develop himself. The plane had 2 37mm anti-tank cannons slung beneath its wings, making it instantly recognizable. The Soviets viewed Rudel as a priority target. According to various accounts, Soviet command placed bounties on him. Pilots were promised medals and cash for shooting down his distinctive plane, and anti-aircraft units received special orders to prioritize him. Yet, neither Soviet pilots nor ground fire managed to take him out for good. Notably, Soviet military historians largely avoided mentioning him by name for decades. Acknowledging the scale of damage one enemy pilot had caused was politically embarrassing. Over the course of the war, Rudel was shot down 32 times. He claimed it was never by an enemy pilot, always by ground-based anti-aircraft guns. He survived numerous crash landings, but sustained several serious injuries in the process. In the final months of the war, during fighting along the Oder River, his plane was hit by ground fire and he lost his right leg below the knee. 6 weeks later, he was back in the cockpit with a prosthetic. He was still flying when the war ended. On May 8, 1945, he took off from the Berlin area, flew west, and surrendered to American forces. After being released from American captivity, Rudel initially settled in West Germany. In 1948, he moved to Argentina, which had become the primary haven for Nazi-era fugitives. It was to Argentina that Adolf Eichmann and Joseph Mengele had also fled, sneaking through Italy and Spain via the so-called Rat Line, with covert assistance from certain Catholic Church circles. Rudel's path was different. He didn't hide and didn't change his name. The Americans had released him without any trial. But in Buenos Aires, he joined this same tight-knit community of German émigrés and clearly felt right at home. Juan Perón's government welcomed German experts and used their experience to modernize Argentina's military and industry. Rudel worked as a military advisor to the government, apparently with no reservations about the company he was keeping. While in exile, he published his memoirs under the title Stuka Pilot, which were later translated into multiple languages and went through numerous editions. It has never been translated into Russian, despite the fact that most of the events he describes took place on the Eastern Front. The book reflects his personal experiences along with his undiminished belief in National Socialism. Rudel is understood within the history of World War II as a product of the Nazi military system. He remained loyal to Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich until the very end, and never renounced his political beliefs after the war. Before returning to Germany, he was active in right-wing and revanchist circles, though efforts to build these movements into a serious political force came to nothing. His return to West Germany was relatively uneventful, though his public statements occasionally stirred controversy. He ran for the Bundestag on the ticket of the far-right German Reich Party, but was not elected. Despite suffering a stroke in 1970, he remained physically active and involved in organizing athletic competitions for people with disabilities. He spent his final years in Kufstein, a small town in the Austrian Alps.
Rudel died of heart failure on December 18, 1982. His funeral sparked public controversy. During the burial service, Bundeswehr jets flew over the cemetery. The Defense Ministry claimed it was a coincidence, that the planes had been on a routine training flight. Around 2,000 people attended, many of them veterans and far-right figures. He was, by the numbers, the deadliest pilot who ever lived. But unlike many veterans of the Third Reich who at least publicly distanced themselves from the past, Rudel never budged. The war ended. He didn't change.